See if this works. Hopefully we had this works, a very prosperous week. Hopefully we're able to learn something out of our Torah portion this week. Um, I'm I'm excited to be here today and to be able to share more information with you all about what we need to do and what the Most High is asking from us as His people. Sometimes we make things a little bit more difficult than what they're supposed to be, but that's why we're here, is to figure out what we need to do in order to make sure that we're living the life that the Most High wants us to live. Because life, again, you guys, is very, very short. It's not long at all. Um, in our Torah portion, not Moshe, Noah, he lived 950 years, and their lifespan was a lot different than what our lifespan is today. We have a very short period of time to learn. 70 years is and 80 years that's nothing compared to what uh, our ancestors used to live. The Most High does promise us that we will end up being a people that will have our days as long as the days of a tree. And that is in the time to come. Life, again, is very mysterious. We don't really know everything about it. We know what we know. We know what others have taught us, which can be problematic because a lot of our references or reference points are going back to misinformation. The religion that we used to be part of, the religious, community that we used to participate in, some of us and not all of us, has given us information that's been wrong. It's an error. And so the way that we look at things and the way that we understand, the scriptures have been based upon lies. And the people who have told us these lies are the people who have been, some have done it uh, unaware. They were unaware, like our ancestors, our parents, they were unaware of it. Uh, the teachers in the community, like churches and, leaders, they have given us information that has directed us on how we should live our lives and what are we to expect. And so, when we read the Torah and we're looking at the history of, civilization as we know it in the world, there's a lot of questions that we have. And the Most High will answer some of our questions. He won't answer all of our questions you know, there's some things that we're not going to know. There's just some things, that we're not going to know. There's some things that we're not going to experience. But I do want to make it clear that this Torah portion this week is not talking to the children of Israel. This has nothing to do with the children of Israel. There's some ideas behind it that affect the children of Israel, but he's not talking about the children of Israel. What he's talking about is humanity. Okay. And we share in that and humanity. So the part of us that need to pay attention to this is the idea that we are humans and we are men and women. We are what they call a Dom. That's what we are. And English is Adam. We are that human being. Well, let's go ahead and get started and let's dive into the teaching and let's see what we can find. Let me share my screen with you all. Let me put it right here. Pause this. Okay, Noah. And I'm going to frame my self out of the video. Good job. All right, here we are. Can you all see my screen?
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom. All right, so this week we're talking about Noah. That's who we're talking about. And, we're going to dive into his life a little bit. We're going to see what we find. Three areas that, that pop up in my mind this week is talking about his shadow, right? And what that means is that we were created in Yahweh's image. And the reason for the destruction of the whole entire world was because humanity had forgotten that they were created and made in the image that Yah saw worthy of them, and they were mistreating each other. So the world was full of violence. And that's what it says, that, the violence of man came up before the Most High, and he decided that, hey, all they're interested in doing is hurting one another, right? So this is something that we forget, So the Most High, again, is not punishing the world from the idea of saying, hey, I just want to hurt them. Just like him saying he wants to hurt someone that he deeply cares for. The Most High expressed to us that he regretted, and he had some regrets about humanity and how they end up becoming, right? And so, the story of Noah is a very disturbing story. So that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit. And also, too, we want to talk about our pursuit, right? There's always a pursuit that we need to look at and what we need to be chasing after.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And we need to pursue, and we're going to talk about what we need to pursue and what our pursuits are in this life, and what is to be expected from us. And of course, lastly, we're going to talk about what they would say our name. Okay, so these are the three areas. But pretty much we're going to focus on our pursuit and our name. His shadow is something we already know. People have talked about it. When they talk about how man was made in the image of Elohim, they're thinking that the Most High is a man. And they're thinking because it says that he sees, that he has eyes. They think because he says he stretched out his arm and he showed the power of his hand, that of course he must be a human being. But this word about being in his shadow is saying that when he made us, it said his image. In Hebrew talks about a shadow. And it's talking about how light is. There's something between a surface and between light, and that thing, or that shadow, or that thing that appears between the light and the surface on the ground, is what you call a shadow. So what you do is you put your hand, and of course this is not like a science project, but you could put a light over your hand or anything, and you put it towards the ground, and then looking down upon it, you stick the hand or the book or whatever, you put that image or whatever it is you're putting underneath that light, and what you're going to see on the surface is the actual shadow. Okay, so it's not the very thing, it's not it, it's a shadow. So Yah's letting us know that you're not an image of me, literally, you are a shadow of me. See? Meaning, as if something is passing by light, you would see this shadow. It's not the actual thing, it is a shadow of it. And so he talks about being made in his image and in his likeness, which talks about how we are supposed to live our lives and what we are supposed to reflect from the light. Oh, praise be to Yahweh. We talked about last week about what light is. And light is order, it's arrangement. So, how we live our lives and what we're supposed to represent while we're here on his earth, and what his intentions are for us as a creation. Okay, so his intention is that we would worship him, that we would serve him, and that we'd acknowledge him. And what has happened is humanity has forgotten that they are not the very image of Yah, they are the very shadow of what Yah is. So you and I, when we live our lives and how we treat each other, it's reflective of our relationship or how we're relating to the Most High. So, one of the things that I've established in my home is that we're going to be very careful about how we talk to each other, because we are the shadows of Yah. Okay. So, there can't be any violence in terms of conversation. Sometimes we think that you have to be yelling and screaming at someone to be violent. And that's not true. Kamas is to be in any opposing force to one another. And so that's why the Most High destroyed the earth. He destroyed it because humankind was in constant chaos. Okay. They forgot that they were a shadow. They forgot that they were supposed to reflect his character. And that has been the problem. And that is still the problem today. Okay. As you know, I always like to introduce you to the words in Hebrew. So let's look at what Noach's name is, okay, and what it represents. So what we have here is we have, in blue, the letters of his name, which is what they would call an N and a CH. Okay. So the noon and what they call it, the Kate. I don't have the names of the letters up here, but I'll go ahead and underline them for you. So here's the noon, which is represented by the N. And then we have the CH, which is represented by that Kate right there. Okay. So those are the two letters of the name of Noah. And in Hebrew, names represent someone's character. Okay. That's what it represents, a character. So, when we talk about names, and this is the reason why the names are mentioned, is because they're supposed to direct us to what it is the Most High wants to understand about the character. Okay. So we want to find out about the character of Noah. That's why the Torah portion this week is called Noah. Okay. It could have been called, Ka'anan. It could have been called Kam or Yafet, but he's not having us focus on them. He's having us to focus on Noah and what it is that he represents. When his father had birthed him or had him, he said that this man, this child, is going to bring forth something. He's going to bring comfort to us. Okay. And the comfort he's talking about is the comfort to reestablish the world, to be in a place, the earth primarily, to be able to be fruitful. Because at the time the land was cursed because of what Adam had done. Okay. Meaning last week it's talked about how the ground was cursed. The man wasn't cursed, the ground was cursed. And he was cursed in his bones, he was cursed in agriculture, he was cursed in his relationship, he was cursed. And so all of his work and his effort was meaningless to a point to where it was very disturbing to the people and they experienced a lot of pain. So Noah's birth, the circumstances that surrounds his birth is about Yah showing comfort. Okay. Matter of fact, I don't have the word up here, but this word Noah right here, if I was to add one letter on the end, and that would be an M, okay, called Nakam. Nakam would mean for it to be comforted. Okay. So when the Most High talks about, hey, he was comforted after certain things would happen, you just add that letter to it. So Noah's name has a lot of other, meanings besides what we have here. But agriculturally, the letter Nun deals with a seed, okay, in Hebrew. And that seed sprouts, which means that it continues. Okay. The seed here can represent family. It can represent children. It can represent a harvest. It can represent flowers. It can represent all that. Okay. Because without the land and without the food, then man will not be able to continue. So he needs seed to continue. And as you know, in your Torah portion, the Most High said, I'm not going to destroy the earth anymore because I want you guys to be able to continue. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So continuing is an opportunity for development. So with Noah being in mind, and we're talking about what he represents, is not only he's bringing comfort, but he's also the one who's able to continue. Okay. The Most High chose him to continue. The next letter of his name is this letter right here called the Kate. Okay. And it's called CH, okay, ET. Okay. That's called a Kate. Okay. And a Kate means a tent wall. And the tent wall does something. It continues all the way around. Matter of fact, when they would put the tents together in a nomadic setting, the family would have, each person would have their tent. The son, the father, the other brothers, the cousins, the uncles, all of them had their tents right next to each other. And what they would do is create a wall that goes around. And that wall will then provide protection for the camp. Okay. Matter of fact, the word Noach has another connection. Okay. Talk about a camp. Okay. And you say, well, okay, how is that connected to a camp? Well, in Hebrew, the camp has to do with tents, the tent wall. And all we would need to do is to add the letter mem in front. Okay. And that would call a makane. Okay. So it would be a makane. We'll arrange these letters. Okay. There's another person called Manoah, which was Samson's father. And his name means to comfort or to bring rest. That's the reason why Samson was chosen out of that family, so he can bring comfort and rest to the children of Israel. So there's all these different connections. Okay. So the idea of Noah, everyone, is not just the man who built the ark. Okay. It's the man who Yah chose to continue the tent wall, which means to continue the family. Without him, there would be no humanity. So why did the Most High choose him? That's the question. The question will be answered in what Yah had declared about him. Okay. But before we get to that, we got to bring out the fact that he had three sons. Each one of these sons' names has some type of representation about what they mean. So we have Shem, we have Ham, and we have Yafet. In English, they call him Ham, but that is not his name. His name is not Ham. His name is Ham. Okay. Let's begin with Shem. Okay. They call him Shem. The proper pronunciation is called shame. Okay. That's his proper pronunciation, shame. Okay. Not to be ashamed, but shame. And shame means name. Name means character, reputation. As you notice in your Torah portion, the Most High name was mentioned, and he's the one, he says, blessed be Yahweh, the Elohim of shame. So Noach had given his son a blessing, and the blessing of shame was to have Yahweh's name, because that's what shame means. And okay, so what we see here is the name of Yahweh. He said, blessed be the Elohim Yahweh of shame. So he gets his name, and he automatically blessed him and apportioned, or what they would call assigned, the Elohim to this in particular family. Okay. And they did that because of his character. When his father was naked, along in the tent with his wife, him and his younger brother, Japheth, turned around and they walked backwards and they covered their father's nakedness. Okay. So that's the reason why he received that, because of his modesty, because of his character, and because of his nobility, meaning that he wasn't interested in looking at his father's nakedness. Okay. Here, Kam, which is responsible for pretty much all the dark races in the whole entire world, his name means to be hot or heat. Okay. And it's the land of the hot ones, the land of the ones in the sun. Okay. And this is where you get your idea of what they would call the Africans. Okay. And they are a very hypersexual people that came out of this family. So anytime, and it comes from the heat, like when it talks about how someone gets this hot desire to be sexual, they get a heat, okay, just like an animal. So this family right here is a very hypersexual family, and it was demonstrated by their father, what he did, okay? So, and if you notice, all of the different areas that the Most High talks about in our Torah deals with this family, because out of this family comes Canaan, right? And this was the land that the Most High decided to give to the children of Israel. Out of all the other lands, he decided to make this in particular son in this land to decimate them, get rid of them because of what? It's because of their hypersexual behavior. They were having intercourse with animals and with each other. Okay. If you look, they have a tribe called the Himba tribe in Africa, even to this day, where a man will be able to visit, and as soon as he comes in there, another man will give him his wife to lay with her just as a gift, and then they all sleep with each other all the time. And this is actively today. Okay, so and that's just one of many examples that they do. Okay, so these people are hypersexual. Okay. The Most High said in Leviticus chapter number 18 that I don't want you to do the practices of those who are in the land of Canaan or the ones that you came out of Mitzrayim. Because out of Cam's family, you have the Egyptians, you have the Ethiopians, which are known as the Cushites. Okay, which you have Nimrod, who came from there. So these are the people who are the what they would say the progenitors of all the different things that you're seeing in the world. Okay, so in Africa, in Egypt, um, Nimrod in Babylon, all these different things. They mentioned Babylon, where Nimrod was ruling out of there, as he was the first ruler, came out of the land of the Cushite land, which are called the Ethiopians. Okay, so their history goes way, 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 way back to the beginning. very prominent people. Okay. And again, Ka'anana is one who is perversion. We're going to talk a little bit more about perversion, not only from a sexual perspective, but we're going to talk about perversion of the mind. And also, too, a lot of people don't know that Melchizedek, mentioned in the following chapters next week, a king who comes out of the land of Uvusi, which is out of the land of Canaan, comes from this land too. And he was a priest of the Most High. Okay. So not everybody there was, a pervert. Okay. So, but we see that he is from the line of Kam. That's where Melchizedek is. Okay. He's from the land of Yavusi, which would be part of the land of Canaan. Just to kind of let you know. So when someone's telling you that he's a priest forever and he's this and Christ is part of the line of Melchizedek and you're part of a Melchizedek priesthood line, you want to bring them and ask them, where does he originate from? What land is he from? He's from the land of Yavusi, what they call the land of the Jebusites, which is part of the family of the Canaanites. Okay. You can research that and find that out for yourself. Yalpheth, okay, has a name meaning to be open. Okay. Matter of fact, what I was really fascinated by was that it was called a pata. Okay. And a pata is a picture of this symbol here, which is a pay that has to do with the mouth and it means to open. Okay. So that's what his name represents. And a matter of fact, in the Hebrew scrolls, when you see this letter, it means it's time to open up another teaching. So that was pretty interesting when I found that out as well. I thought that was fascinating. So he's open, and meaning that he's open to what? He's open to everything. And his geographical location was in the coastlands and the islands. And so they were, once they got out of the flood, their land was distributed to them in different areas. Okay. Matter of fact, when we talk about the Ethiopia, we would think Africa, but this Cushite here was in Mesopotamia. It was in southern Mesopotamia. So not every time they talk about the Ethiopians, the first Ethiopia is not in Egypt. It's nowhere even in Africa. Okay. It is in what they call Mesopotamia. Okay. Because that's where Nimrod is from. He ruled in the land of Shinar, which is in Babylon. So the first ruler in Babylon was a Cushite from the family of Kam, which means the people of color, the dark people. Okay. So this young man here is black. Okay. This young man right here is black. This young man right here is black. They're all black. Okay. That's what they are. Even though Japheth over time has been in the islands and the coastlands and geographically, him being in the locations, his DNA has changed by being in these areas in the cold climates, then you start losing your what they would call your melanin. Okay. These people are the people of the sun. That's where you get the heat and the hot from. So they're generally going to be darker people. Okay. The Shemites, of course, these are your what they call your Afro-Asiatics. Okay. So they have that African, that Asian, that look. Okay. But the primary concern about them is everything that's mentioned here. Okay. So Yahweh has been designated to him as an Elohim. Mhm. So now we can see why Yah has chosen this in particular line. It was be simply because of the name. Now, are we talking about his name or are we talking about Yahweh's name? We're talking about his name and Yahweh's name because Yahweh's name is revealed to him. Okay. Now, when the Most High said that, you know, there were three things that he wanted us to know about Noach. There's three things. And the first of it, and I'm going from right to left. The right to left is the Zedek over here to your right hand side. Okay. What we call Zedek or Zadik. We're going to talk about Zadik. We're going to talk about Tamim, and we're going to talk about Hithalak. Okay. And he said, well, those are things I don't know what you're talking about. Let me explain them to you to give you a foundation. So going from right to left, the Zadik here is one who is a pursuer of what they would call righteousness. This is what Noach was. This is the reason why the Most High chose him to continue the family. This is the reason why he survived. Noach is a modern day what they would call a remnant. So him and his family, his sons and their wives, they're a remnant, right? They're what's left over. So what a remnant has to do with is a Hebrew word called sha'ar that has to do with binding and tying something up. Okay. So out of all humanity, the Most High decided, I'm going to choose this man. And he didn't choose him for no reason. It wasn't an arbitrary choice. It wasn't like he didn't have any other choices. He chose him because of who he was and his character. It says this is what Noah did. He did all that Yahweh had ordered him to do. Okay. And he did it because he was Zadik. He was a pursuer and a one who chased what was right. Okay. He was the one who would follow after the Most High on the path that the Most High has prescribed. So where did he get this idea from? Was it a Torah that he had? Did he have anything in writing? Well, what was it? Why did he do this? How did this come about? Inherently, we know that we can make choices. And the choice that he made was so Yah gives us instinctively the ability to make a choice between good and evil. And the reason why we know that that's true is because that is what they received when their eyes were open. Last week we talked about how they received the knowledge and the counsel between good and evil. So they have the ability to make a choice. And of course, Noah chose the good. He chose that which was functional. So his righteousness was the idea of him always pursuing Yah and walking on the path that Yah had prescribed. And he was trying to obtain, to achieve what it is that the Most High wanted for him and what he wanted for humanity. See, we're just a shadow. That's all we are. And that's why we're put here to reflect Yahweh's his order and reflect his character. And he's also a seeker of the Most High. And that's what he did. Constant. Okay. The word tamim, okay, tamim means to be complete. So again, we have another, idea that, people say you can't be perfect, right? There's no one perfect. That's not true. The Most High declared Noah to be perfect. He declared the one who is going to continue the human race to be perfect. So we don't need to have any other person to come along and tell us that you cannot be perfect and I'm the only perfect one. There's other men who were perfect as well. We have Abraham, who the Most High said was perfect. He told him to be perfect, and he was. He said, walk uprightly before him, be tamim. And that literally means is when I talk about being perfect, and it means to come to completion, it means that these men, these individuals, these people decided that I'm going to be finished with what I want to do, and I'm going to complete what it is that the Most High wants me to do and what He wants me to be. You and I cannot obtain righteousness without doing everything that Yah has ordered us to do. You and I can never, ever be finished with ourselves, okay, completely if we don't understand what it is that Yahweh wants from us. We would think that the Most High, all He wants for us to do is call upon His name and pray and sing songs and have festivals. It's deeper than that. It's greater than that. Last week we talked about what our responsibility is to humanity. So this is a call that was given to him, and he took it. He took advantage of the opportunity. Out of all the people on the face of the earth, the Most High says, "You're the only one that I have looked upon and seen to be this." This wasn't something that the Most High gave him. Okay. So in terms of integrity, meaning like the finished work is in being tried. It's like having a car or some other type of item that you would have, and you have to make sure that it's finished or that it's complete or that it has integrity, that it can be trusted. So the Most High is literally saying that the individuals that follow Him are going to be the ones that have complete integrity in what they're doing. They have integrity when it comes to reading the words that the Most High said. They have integrity when it comes to following what has been prescribed. They have integrity when it comes to making decisions about what's right and what's wrong. The last word there is called hithalak, okay, or hithalak. And hithalak is again, and you know me, I'm really big on verb tenses. I'm really big on how actions are being done. Okay. So we talked about how, he walked with the Most High. Okay. Not only he pursued him, he walked with him. He had a relationship with him. And this hit right here means to do an action on oneself. Okay. Unlike something last week, we talked about how some things are caused, how the Most High caused us to see that you guys are the ones that are, having the problem of the curse. Like he caused us to see that through, the things that we've experienced. Here, this is different. This is something that he's causing himself to do. So again, we find the idea in Noah, the Torah portion, about personal responsibility and accountability and having to be motivated, oneself to be motivated. So this is what's indicative for an individual who decided that they want to be Tamim and the individual who is Adik. These are the ideas behind it. So it's not something that you're going to be caused to do. You understand? So he's decided that he's going to walk with the Most High. He's decided he's going to live a life that the Most High would accept. His life was one of integrity. That's why he was called Tamim. And that's what Yah saw in him. Yah can see these things in us. Just like he can see the evil and the wrong things, he can also see the good. Like he told Cain, you could choose. I mean, sin lays at the door and is trying to control you, but you can rule it. You can mashalo. You can have power over it. Okay. So our walk and our life and the way and the places that we go, okay, it has to be something that is caused by oneself. So you don't need me to teach you on how to be Tamim. You don't need any man to teach you how to be Tamim. This means that you're going to take responsibility for your own self and your own life. And it's because what this man here did, it allowed him to continue. It allowed the camp to continue. It allowed his family to continue. So we can learn a lot from him. Yeah, I gave a testimony that I think all of us should understand. Yahweh said that the word of Yahweh, this is in the book of Ezekiel, excuse me. He said that the word of Yahweh came to me. He said, human being, meaning Adam. Human being there is Adam. When a land sins against me by dealing treacherously with me, so that I stretch out my hand over it and break off its food supply, snap, sending it famine and eliminating its humans and its animals, even if these three men were in it, Noach, Daniel, and Eov, they would, by their righteousness, save only themselves, says the Master Yahweh. So you ask yourself the question, why would he choose these three men? Well, from Noah's perspective, we understand why now, because of the way that he lived his life. Okay, Daniel means that Elohim is my judge. He was a man who went into exile, okay, who saw the devastation of his land. And he understood that he had to maintain a relationship with the Most High. And he did that, and he caused himself to go to the man and ask him if it's possible that I might be able to eat the food that we're asking you for. We saw that he didn't break under pressure while he was in exile. He was constantly seeking Yah's face. We see that Eov was a man known as the enemy, because that's what Eov means, to be an enemy. Even though he thought Yahweh was his enemy and he lost everything, he was completely devastated. At the end of his journey, he realized that it was the Most High that is in control of everything. It was by their righteousness that would only save themselves. So Yah is letting us know that no matter what you and I do, it's only going to be about you saving yourself. If you want to be part of the remnant of Yahweh, they're only going to save themselves. They're the ones who save themselves. No man came to deliver a message to save them. They saved themselves from destruction. Daniel saved him and his fellow people. Remember, salvation was given to him and his three other Hebrew boys, and also all the wise people of Babylon? You understand? Eo was a man from the east, full of wisdom, and he had people sitting with him, giving counsel. Do you understand? So they saved themselves. You and I are only going to be able to save yourself. You're not going to be able to save your children. You're not going to be able to save your wife and your husband. You're not going to save anybody that goes against the Most High. That's just what it is. Okay? You're not. When reading this week in Psalms, which this is very important for us to understand, when I give us the Torah portion, I give us the Haftarah, and I tell us, well, we need to go ahead and read the Psalms. Right. In the Psalms, they have these ideas that are not only about praise and poems and poetry and acrostic type of writings, but they have what they call a maskil. Okay. And a maskil is a time of contemplation. It's a time of really deep thought and taking your time of great consideration. And so praise to Yah, and praise, of course, means to bring light. That's what praise is. It's called halal, and it's to bring light. So what we're finding is that even in the book of Psalms, the time of meditation and deep thought is considered to be praise. Okay. And Dawid had says something that I want to share with us because I thought it was appropriate for our lesson. He says, how blessed are those whose offense is forgiven and those whose sin is covered. You say, okay, well, thank you for sharing, that how blessed it is. What Dawid is making reference to, everyone, is how the Most High is looking at humanity. Okay. And he's going to tell us how we can get a better understanding about how to be more like Noach, because he uses Noach's example in this in particular psalm. It's the first time I've ever saw it, because he mentions things that are connected to the flood. Okay. And so when you talk about the sin and the offense be forgiven, because the fact of the matter is the people who offense that they committed against the Most High and their sin was not forgiven. They were punished and they were dealt with. Okay. Right. So Noach wasn't a, when it's talking about him being perfect, and I want to be clear, being perfect doesn't mean that you're not going to make a mistake. I've said that before and I'll say it again. Okay. It doesn't mean that you're not going to make a shagaga. It doesn't mean that Noach, even after he got out of the ark, he saw what he did. He got drunk. Okay. He laid naked. Okay. So it wasn't like the Most High is saying he's perfect, in every area of his life. He's saying that, he's not intentionally going against the Most High. Okay. The reason why this is important for us to understand is simply because if you and I don't get this offense, because the offense that I'm going to tell you about is different than what we've been told. Okay. Because a lot of times we think our offense is just doing stuff. Dawid is making it clear. Okay. There's an offense that our King Dawid did, that he's telling us that he wanted to make sure that we understood. Yes. Yes, I see your ear. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, Shabbat Shalom, Akika. You had mentioned, I think last year when we were studying Noah, that you thought that Noah's nakedness and what Ham and Shem and Japhet had
Yeah.
seen was him
Hmm.
sleeping with his wife rather than just being not
Yes.
naked, naked
Yes.
as well. Okay, all right,
Yeah,
all
it
right.
was. Yeah, it wasn't just naked. I didn't go into detail of it, right, on this one, but it is when it talks about revealing his father's nakedness. Ham did something that is mentioned in Leviticus 18. So when you want to find out exactly what that is, then you go to Leviticus 18 and he's going to tell you that revealing someone's nakedness means to lay with your father's wife. That's what he did. Okay. Here, this is an offense. And I want to tell you what this is because I didn't recognize it until I studied it. Okay. Now, I want you to be able to accept what I'm about to tell you. Okay. The offense that Dawid wanted us to be aware of is the fact that when you and I are silent, he said that it was a time when he was silent and he was silent about his sin. That's what he was silent about. And what it was is that he was taking his time about going to the Most High and, you know, making it known about what he has done. That's what he was doing. And he's not talking about the sin with Bathsheba. He's talking about the mistakes that he's made and the ones that he was aware of and the ones that he wasn't aware of. There's mistakes that you and I make that we're not even aware of. You and I would think that we're 100% perfect and we're okay. And the Most High is saying that's not the case. When we're standing before and we live in the presence of a holy Elohim, a one who's set apart, who can't even look upon man, and man can't look at him without dying. You and I need to understand that the way that we live our lives and what we say and how we feel and all these, how we treat each other, the things that we do are offensive to the Most High. And we have to be very, very careful not to do this offense. The offense is silence. Silence about what it is that you're doing and what it is that you don't even know. We're not even taking the time to tell the Most High, sorry about the things that we're even unaware of. It's like we're asking him just to kind of overlook it. Like, you really think that he's not going to acknowledge and bring judgment upon that which is being done in secret and that which is even unintentional? He even provides sacrifices for that which is unintentional. Why would he do that if he knows you're going to make a mistake? Why? Because it has to be dealt with, because that's the Elohim that we're dealing with. Yah sits upon the throne. He's a king, and there's nothing that escapes his judgment. See? So the idea Dawid was saying that he was silent about this. And what I found was I wrote a note here that says harvest of Eitzah. The harvest is talking about, Dawid said that my bones, right? He says my bones were like sapped up like a long summer. This is in chapter number 32 when you read it, okay? He said it was like the summer, my bones were all sapped up. I had no strength left in my bones. Like a long hot summer. This is what he said, a long hot summer. I was like, what does he mean a long hot summer? What is he talking about? Then I remember what we learned last week that talked about that the bones have to do with called Eitzah. Eitzah is the harvest of counsel. So the reason why he's mentioning that, because in the summertime, because that's when things are harvested, right? From all the work that you have done, he's saying because he's been silent, he wasn't able to pull any counsel from Yah that whole time. So he didn't have a harvest. That's why he felt like he was sapped up and there was nothing left in him because he didn't have the counsel. That's what he's saying. Okay. So when we remain silent and we don't acknowledge our sin, right? We just acknowledge the things that we do to other people that we think that it's wrong. Then you and I are going to be um, lacking the counsel of the Most High, and we're putting what they would call a delay between us and the Most High. And you do that through avoiding the fact that you have to acknowledge your sin. We're not under the idea of Christianity or any other religion that tells us that, you just can ask for forgiveness and all your sins are forgotten. So once we got away from that, we like, well, people ask you all the time, well, how do you deal with your sin? Because that's the question. How do you deal with your sin if you don't have a savior? And we're supposed to be able to confess our sins. So even right now in the book of Ezekiel, chapter number 37, you can use for your reference, or 36, excuse me. Is it 36? No, it's 37. That says you're sinning against me. Even right now. You say, well, how am I doing that? I'm doing that because I'm not in the place that I'm supposed to be. I'm doing that because I have no way to make the wrongs that I've done right, according to what the law says. I'm sinning against the Most High by simply not wearing the garments that I were commanded to wear because I'm a set apart people. We're sinning against the Most High. We're missing the mark of what Yah had intended for us. See, and so these ideas on what we think sin is has been taught to us by the people who don't understand Yah, don't have a relationship with him. So you and I would never imagine that silence is an offense to the Most High when it comes to who he is. Avoidance of even having a discussion about it, which is that's what the delay is an offense to the Most High. So that's why Dawood was saying this. And this is the reason why he says that for everyone who's faithful should pray at the time when you can be found. Okay. So there's only certain times that you're going to be able to get to the Most High. And then it says, then when the flood waters are raging, they will not reach him, letting us know, going back to the flood waters of Noah, the people that remained silent and never mentioned anything that they were doing, they were just living their lives in front of the Most High. Humanity was just living their life and they were avoiding their responsibility because they bear the image of the Most High. They bear the shadow of him. And they thought, we don't have to say anything. We don't have to do anything. We're not doing anything wrong. But only if they would have acknowledged this. You see? So the silence is the offense. The offense also includes the transgression, which is the perversion, not of sexual perversion. It is the twistedness of one's thought life. Dawood experienced it. He said that, hey, the sin of my transgression, the offense up here is really what you would call the sin. Okay. The transgression is the perversion, is the twistedness. Okay. So Dawood is acknowledging that, guess what? By me being silent is a perversion of thought. These people over here in the floodwaters that was acting dumb and stupid and violent and all this kind of stuff, only if they would have opened their mouth, then they could have avoided these floodwaters that overtook them, like Noah. So again, when we're thinking, trying to understand when Yah told us that Noah was righteous and that he was tamim, that he was perfect and he was complete and he dealt with integrity, is giving us a clearer picture of what he wasn't doing. Noah wasn't silent when it came to things of his mistakes. And because he was receiving the harvest of counsel from the Most High, when the trouble came, when the floodwaters came, he was already protected. Meaning that the Most High says you're going to be able to continue your family. Why? Because you did not delay in doing that which is right. You didn't delay. You understood that this is what I require of you. So now, when you and I are looking at it and we're being quiet, Dawood says that that quietness and that silence and that inability to make a move and to say, I'm willing to take correction, when you bring it to my attention, as if Yah has never spoken to these people and he killed them for no reason. You see? So the transgression and the perversion, the twistedness of our thought life would be reflected into our behaviors and actions. Why? Because we were silent about them. And eventually we will be overtaken by the floodwaters and you will be destroyed. Okay? And when he's talking about these floodwaters right here, Dawood is just making reference to the fact that, hey, back in the day, he knew about Noah's story. Isaiah knew about Noah's story. It's mentioned in your Haftarah. People knew about the story. They knew about it. You understand? But what is the solution? Dawood not only tells, remember, this is a maskil. This is a time of reflection and a time of contemplation. He gives us the solution to how to deal with this offense and this transgression, this perversion of thought. The way that you and I get out of it is through the acknowledgement and the confession. Just like the Most High says in the book of Leviticus, chapter number 26, if all I want you to do is acknowledge that you've gone against me and confess that your ancestors have done this and that and the other, and they've rejected me, and confess that I'm the one who sent you into exile. So this is the truth. Okay. So this is a transgression and a sin that we have never been taught about. And all because you and I don't believe that as a man who died for our sins, like, the rest of the world, pretty much, doesn't mean that you and I are not going to have to be responsible for the mistakes that we make. So let's don't sit here and keep silent on what it is, because the moment that you and I do that, then you and I are not receiving the counsel of the Most High. And he doesn't want that. He wants you to get his counsel. He wants us to have his counsel. He wants it. How do I know that? Because this is what he said. I will instruct and teach you in this way that you are to go. I will give you counsel. My eyes will be watching you like his eyes were watching Noah. He said, I saw that he was a righteous and a tamim, and he hit the lock and he walked before the Most High. You see? So Yah wants to counsel us. He wants to give us the Eitzah. You understand? He wants to be able to strengthen us like he would strengthen a tree. He says, the days of my people be like the days of a tree. He's not just talking about the long life of the tree. He's talking about the firmness of it. He's talking about the counsel of it. He's talking about what it provides for us. The life that Yah has given us is just not fruits and vegetables. It goes along with counsel. Do we not want his counsel? Do we not want him to instruct and teach us? Being with Yah requires for us to be righteous. Only a righteous person can obtain or to do the things that the Most High wants them to do. They're the only ones that are going to be able to achieve the goals that Yah has set for not only them, but for humanity. We're not living for ourselves. We're supposed to protect ourselves, but we're not living for ourselves. You got a greater purpose. And this is what we've been missing. We're the people on the earth who are supposed to help facilitate Yah's purpose. He wants to give us counsel. My eyes will be watching you. Now, in your Torah portion, it talked about how the Most High said he's going to give a sign. He said, here's the sign of the covenant that I'm making between myself and you and every living creature with you for all generations to come. I'm putting my rainbow in the cloud. It will be there as a sign of the covenant between myself and the earth. A lot of Christian commentators and a lot of religious leaders have said that there was a covenant that the Most High has made with Adam. And I can't find it. Can't find it. When it talks about how to bless Adam, and he said, be fruitful and multiply, that's not a covenant. That's a blessing. That's different. This is the first covenant that the Most High has made with humanity. This is the first agreement that he's made, that he made with humanity and he made with the whole entire earth. So Yah is not only in covenant with humanity, he's in covenant with the whole entire earth. And this is something that you and I are forgetting. Okay. And it's not a rainbow, it's my rainbow. Okay. His, that he's actually made as the sign of the covenant, the agreement that he's making between you and every living creature with you and everything on the earth. Yah is concerned about the earth as well as humanity. We would like to separate the two and think that he cares nothing about the earth. He only cares about man. And he only cares about bringing man to heaven, where he says the heavens are for me and the earth is for you. But if you got Christianity, they're going to tell you that you're supposed to be in heaven. Yes, Mashal.
So to get a little more understanding, when you said it is not a rainbow, but his rainbow, it is his light reflected in many different frequencies, different colors. It is
Yes.
his light that he's shining upon us through the firmament.
Yes, it's his. It's not something that just happens. That's what he's letting us know. I'm putting my rainbow in the cloud. So every time he sees it, it's not about when you see it. It says It will remind him of his covenant. Now, the bottom line is this: it's a sign. So every time the Most High goes into the agreement with anyone, there always has to be a sign that's attached to that agreement, right? So if he wasn't in covenant with Adam, what is the sign that he says this is the sign? Where did he say this is the sign that I'm making with Adam? Yes.
I was doing some studying during the week and came across the rainbow, and it made me think of how some people say that we're under a new covenant, but the very fact that we can still see the rainbow today is proof that we're still under the old covenant.
Oh, wait a minute. Are were you here when I put this lesson together? Because that's the next slide. That's the next slide.
Mhm.
So what
Yeah,
sign did he give to Adam? Somebody tell me. He didn't give them no sign. He didn't make no covenant. He has a covenant with Noah, and he has a covenant with the whole entire earth, with her and everything that's in her. You understand? So let's see what Sister Pam just said, since she's been studying and the Most High has guided her to this. Look, covenant. Most High says, so as long as the earth exists, sowing time, harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will not cease. That's what he said. Okay. Check this out. Second Peter tells you that Noah was a preacher of righteousness. In your Torah portion, did Noah ever preach to anybody? Do you see Noah talking to anybody? Yes? No? Maybe? He never,
No.
he did not speak. Okay, let's rewind the tape. If the Most High said that only you in this whole generation I see is righteous, only you, would the Most High send him out to go preach to the people that he's going to destroy?
no,
No. So is the Most High concerned about anybody else but Noah and his family and the animals that he chose? Anybody else?
Nope.
No.
no.
Romans chapter number 8, going back to what Sister Pam just said. Do you know in the book of Romans, it says that since you have an old nature, you're incapable of doing anything, that you need the Spirit of God because your old nature, under that covenant, you guys can't, you're incapable. You can never do anything to please God. Never. So was Noah in an old nature when he did what the Most High asked him to do?
Nope.
No, 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 no. Maybe I should ask the question different. What nature did Noah have when he was doing what he did?
His only nature, the
His
natural
only
nature.
nature that they're calling old. What nature was Abraham operating under? Was it the new nature of the Holy Spirit, or was it the old nature of just being Abraham?
The only nature, the old
Only
nature.
nature, which they would call old. The reason why they're calling old, so they can associate it with the Old Testament. That's why they named it old. They're saying that we're incapable of doing good. Book of Romans says creation is groaning right now. So when the Most High just said, so as long as the earth exists, sowing time, harvest time, cold, heat, summer, winter, day and night will not cease. Is that meaning that nature is groaning? Or does it mean that it's going to continue?
It's going to continue.
So going back to Noah, his name means to continue. And Noah is going to be the one to comfort humanity from what? So the earth is going to be, she's going to be comforted. Because she was underneath the curse. So the Most High is removing the curse off of the land. She's not groaning like Romans chapter 8 is saying. They said creation is subject to bondage and decay. She's locked into dying. By what? Fruits and vegetables getting old and dying, trees dying. So what on earth that they would call old doesn't die? Somebody tell me, what on this earth doesn't die? What creature, what fish, what bird, what insect, what leaf, what tree, what is not dying?
Everything is.
Everything.
The stones are maybe the stones.
My point is this: everything that is living dies.
Yes.
So the idea of being set free from decay, because they're making you think because you're in the old nature, the way the Old Testament works, the way that everyone was working, that is a complete lie. Just like him being a preacher of righteousness was a lie. He was not a preacher. He didn't preach to nobody. He did what he was commanded. Here's the best part. Here's the best lie that they have for you, just so you can know when you read it. Your favorite, the book of Revelation. Go read it. They say that there's not going to be any sea. Yah says there is going to be a sea. They say there's not going to be any temple, but Yah says he's going to rebuild the temple. They say there's not going to be any sun and moon. If there is no sun and moon, then there won't be any day or night, because the sun and the moon govern the day and the night. So the question is, did Yahweh break his covenant?
Yahweh never breaks.
Thank
Well,
you, Sister Pam.
to say that there won't be no sun and moon is to say that there will be no life at all to exist anymore.
Right. See? So no sea, no temple, no sun, no moon. Go look at it. See if I'm telling you the truth. Why don't they want to see? Why don't they want a temple? Why don't they want the sun? Why don't they want the moon? Why don't they want nature as it is? Go back here. Why don't they want nature? Why they don't want creation to decay? Why they don't want something to be renewed? Why do they want this man to preach to people that are destined to die? So why would y'all be preaching to people that he's going to kill anyway? That doesn't make any sense. I thought I would share this because Sister Pam brought it out. Yahweh has never broken his covenant. Someone tell me, has Yahweh ever broken his word? No. Is he ever going to break his covenant?
No.
No. Did he break his covenant at Mount Sinai, what they call the 10 words? Did he break that?
No.
No. We broke it, but did he break it? No. Yah's promises are not contingent upon what you and I do. It's who he is. He's not trying to, he only exists when we say he exists. Brings me into the concluding part of our teaching today. Tower of Babel. What does Babel mean? Why is this mentioned in chapter number 11?
Confusion.
There you go.
To have
Confusion. It means to mix.
have no one particular language.
Yes, it means to mix. Yes. So they all started off with one language, right? They were all what? Akkad, correct? Yes. They were all Akkad. They all had one language, one tongue. Okay. I forgot to put the slide in here, but let me tell you a little bit about why he mixed and messed up their languages. The word for the lip is called shafah. Okay. Shafah. All right. And the shafah or the shafah is the lip. Okay. And you have two of them because it'll be shafayim, right? But you have two of them. Okay. Your lips serve as a border. They're the end, they're the edge of your mouth, correct? So they represent a border or a boundary. Okay. They're your borders or your boundaries. Like they say, the lip of a river or the lip of the the stream, the lip of this or the lip of that. They're talking about the Shapha. So the reason why Yah changed them is because their whole purpose is that they didn't want to be scattered to the different places. What they wanted to do is they wanted to create something where they would all stay in the same place. But that was what the Most High did not want them to do. Okay. So we're going to find out why the Most High confused their language. He confused their language because when he told Noah to leave the ark, matter of fact, they didn't leave the ark until they were instructed to leave. Okay. He says, go out from the ark, you, your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives with you, and bring out with you every living thing you have with you, birds, livestock, and every animal that creeps on the earth, so that you can swarm the earth. Okay. Or so they can swarm the earth, be fruitful, and multiply on the earth. Going back to the idea of what they would call the covenant. Okay. In order for them to achieve what the Most High wants them to do. The Most High did not want the people to stay in the same location. Okay. So they're in complete opposition. That should have been changed. This right here, of course, forgive me. I thought I changed it, but I guess it did. It went back. This would be number 1. Okay. Now we're reading from right to left. So right to left, we have what we call autonomy. Second, we have control. And 3, of course, the religions. They wanted to not go anywhere. So what they wanted was complete autonomy. Okay. That's why they said, let's make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered all over the earth. Yahweh's command was to go and be scattered all over the earth. They didn't want to be scattered. They want autonomy. They wanted to be self-governed. They did not want anyone. They want to be able to be, have our self-determination, make our own decisions, make our own choices, and to live the way and to do what we want to do. What they wanted to do was to do exactly everything that they were doing before the flood. Okay, so it talked about how they all were in the east and then they migrated and went over to Babylon to the land of Shinar. Okay, so they're looking to have autonomy, and you and I can learn from this. Okay, so because they wanted to be united and to make a name for themselves, this is what they wanted to do, right? The name, of course, is a reputation. We're going to do what we want to do. We want to build up our name, just kind of like the New Testament, right? You have the name of Christ, his name JC, you have his name Yeshua or whatever they want to call him. His name is being proclaimed all over the world, but the Most High's name is not. Okay. Second thing that they wanted to do was to control. Okay. They don't want any control. They don't want God to control them. Okay. You see this in the book of Psalms in chapter number 2. It asks you, why are the nations in an uproar and the nations are the going? Why are the peoples, grumbling in vain? The earth's kings are taking up positions. Leaders are conspiring together against Yahweh and his anointed. They cry, let's break their fetters. Let's throw off their chains. So you got let's make a name for ourselves. You got let's break their chains. Let's break their fetters. Let's throw off their, let's detach ourselves from them because they don't want to be controlled by the Most High. See, so if you and I understand what our purpose is to be here, okay, this is exciting. You and I's purpose is not to allow them to have autonomy outside of Yah's order. Yah is going to use us to bring them into control. We're going to control the nations. We're going to put them under what they would call our fetters. We're going to dominate them. We're going to tell them that this is what it's going to be. You're not going to do whatever you feel like doing. Okay. So what they consider for us, they consider us as in holding them in bondage. They look at what we're talking about as being in bondage, like the New Testament, right? We got to break away from the most, from God, from Yahweh. We got to break away from him, and we'll introduce, remember, come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden, I'll give you rest. Why did he say that? Give you rest from what? Bearing the yoke that Yahweh has for us to bear. So instead of us taking responsibility and being righteous and being tamim and being wholehearted and walking with Yah and being like Noah, right? We then acquiesce to over there in the New Testament where we're not worried about nothing no more. We're not worried about our sin. We could be silent about our sin because someone took responsibility for it. They don't want control. Who? The nations. The nations are the ones, and when they did get scattered, instead of them following what Yah has said, okay, and being taught and having the character and nobility in which the Elohim of Shem is supposed to have, right? And the character that Noah came from, all these nations came from Noah and his sons and their wives. So how did this happen? How did all of a sudden they decide that we want to make a name for ourselves? They don't want to make a name for Yah. Let's build a tower up to the heavens. So, as a result of this, of being scattered, instead of them, saying, okay, we're going to go under the control and we're not going to have autonomy. Let's fall under the authority of the Most High Yah, and let's do what He says. Instead of doing that, let's create religion. Another attempt to get away from Him and still being unified. So that's where you get your monotheism from. You get your Christianity, your Islam, your polytheism, you get your Judaism. You hear all the isms: Buddhism, Hinduism, paganism. That's their attempt to get from under the control of this in particular Elohim, this power. So they create these superhuman deities or deities that they can call now their God, who allow them to live the way that they want to, allow them to have intercourse with each other, allow them to, steal and rob, allow them to murder, allow them to be violent, allow them and justify their behaviors and their attitudes, allow them to be silent on their sin. You got to be able to see this. Now, here's the scary part. We're in a time right now, and Michelle can probably testify to this. When I read this and I began to understand what was going on, they want to be a cod, okay? They want to be one, right? They want a name for themselves. So the way that they're able to establish a name for themselves and to have control is through religion. So they can remove Yah's name, okay? Now, how were they able to keep this going? Well, they're all saying the same thing. Hear me? So you have all these different religions right here, and they're all saying something different. They're kind of similar, though. You know what I mean? So, a lot of them have a Krishna or a Christ, or they got some type of innocent baby that ended becomes God and all this kind of stuff, right? But there's a deeper meaning about this. The world, everyone, is moving to a place of autonomy. And they're going to do it through the financial markets. That's what they're going to do. They know that they can't get everyone here to agree in this area. Okay. So what they're going to do is they're going to create a financial situation, a global economy. And in this global economy, everyone is going to be speaking the same language. I want you to hear what I just said to you. Okay. In religions, this is all people. So what they're trying to do is circumvent what Yah has said, okay, and control. So because they know they can't all speak the same language over here and they, different customs and culture, the only thing that they do have in common is monetary system. There is a global economy. Okay. And they use this term called interoperability. It's called a messaging system where one country would be able to communicate with another country using a computer code that allows them to transact between each other as if they all had the same language. Michelle, you want to add to it?
I think you said perfectly, man. Exactly what they're doing. And th- at the same time, on the same token, the Most High is using this as a teaching, as a consequential teaching moment for people to wake up. All right. Today starts the day of possible famine for those that accept benefits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
understand? So everything is playing out according to how the Most High has willed it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to remind everyone, everything that's happening every week it aligns with the portion assigned for that week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kel.
Yeah, just to elaborate on just the thought we're talking about, because, we're talking about the future here and us being Israel, we know that when we leave the earth, we come back, and this is the future that's to come. So, like Michelle said, it really starts now because there has to be that remnant that carries on this message. So, when we get back into the earth later on in our, different forms, that this message is carried across because it's a scary world the world is going into and that it's becoming more tight and more strict. And I just
Mm-hmm.
see how people can get, lost in what the world is becoming. But there has to be that remnant of Israel that remains to remember this message that, we're still striving for righteousness
Mm-hmm.
and reaching that point where we will all be, Israel again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's excellent. I love the idea that you mentioned about striving, because that goes back to being righteous. Righteousness is something that one must strive to do, right? And so it's not just handed to us, it's something that has to be played out. But what I've noticed, everyone, is that the idea of control, right? So they don't want Yah part of their affairs. They don't want him part of anything. They don't want him part of their plan. They have a plan. When it talks about conspiring together, it's not talking about putting together a plan that includes him. It says, let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of their ways. Yes, Michelle.
So I wanted to add, all right, we're supposed to be dependent upon the Most High. We're supposed to rely on Him for strength, for everything, for our daily bread, you know, everything. What's happening is that these people have created a system where they no longer you're no longer dependent on the Most High. You're dependent on the system,
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
and
Hmm.
once they get you, it's gonna be hard for you to dig yourself out of that grave.
Yes. And it goes back to the fact of, even this week we talked about SNAP benefits, how they're going to cut off people's food, right? So that's a form of control. And also too, it's a picture of the Most High saying that, when I bring you back to the land, you want to experience what you experienced in the nations. And he talks about famine. He talks about how, you're going to go hungry, right? So hungry is part of the plan. Yah cuts off food. Remember earlier we read, he's talked about, I'll cut off the food supply. I'll cut that off. So what he's doing, I think, in this case of him cutting off this, SNAP benefits and all this, and people are upset about it, rightfully they should be, is kind of an idea of letting you know that you're not in control, and that you are being controlled by the people that are part. And here's the scary part: those people are part of this. They're part of these religions. So their idea of what is righteous is according to how they see it. See? So in, Judaism, they do a lot of little nasty things. You can read it in the Sanhedrin. Islam, they do a lot of dirty, nasty things. Christianity, they do some filthy, nasty things. All these people do some nasty, filthy, corrupt things because their gods allow them to do it. They have gods that says it's okay to be nasty. It's okay to be conniving. It's okay to take someone's life. It's okay. You see, in Judaism, if you're called a goyim or Gentile, they said it's okay to lie to them. Islam, it's okay to lie in Islam, as long as you're lying to someone who's not a Muslim. It's okay. You see? So that's the scary part. So control is where we're at. And I see it. And the messaging system is all going to be one language. So all the people scattered all over the world, financially, they're all going to speak the same language because it's a computer code. Okay. It's called the ISO 222. Go look it up. It's a messaging code that allows money to be just other banks and financial institutions to talk to each other. And they can convert money over from one country to the next seamlessly without any problems. There won't be any more break in anything. Okay. That's the final part of this. At the end of the day, like Caleb was talking about, the nations will come to Yahweh from the ends of the earth, saying, our ancestors inherited nothing but lies, futile idols, completely useless. That's all that these religions have provided for us, is nothing. This is not talking about the children of Israel coming saying this. It's talking about what the nations are going to do. They're going to come to Yahweh and they're going to be taught. Okay. Finally, I want to introduce a word to you called yada. Okay. Yada. And yada pretty much is to know. It says, can a person make himself gods? In the same chapter, we said the nations are coming. We've inherited nothing but futile idols, nothing but lies. Therefore, I will make them know once and for all. I will make them know. I will make them yada. I will make them yada once and for all. I will make them yada. I'm going to make them know my power and my might. Then they will know my name. They will yada my name, my Shemi. They're going to know my name. Through what? Through Yahweh's might and through his power. And he said, I'm going to do it once and for all. When he went into Egypt, everyone, he didn't do it once and for all. He showed it in order for Pharaoh to testify to the world that, hey, Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews have done this. So now the nations are going to have to see it for themselves. Now, here's the best part. When the Most High scattered them, everyone, you ask yourself, well, why did he scatter them? If he knew that they were going to create these religions, if he knew that they were going to have to, and he changed their language, he's the one who did this. Why would he do this? Yah has done it because he knew that they were going to continue to do the idolatrous practices that they were doing. He knew that that would spread. He knew that they would have all these other names. He knew that everyone's going to try to steal his glory. He knew that the children of Israel are going to be scattered to these places. He knew that we're going to worship their gods. He knows that we're going to be harshly mistreated. He knows that we're going to turn our backs on him. He knows all this. He knows that they're going to be telling us lies. So the very lies that they're saying that they've inherited, the very lies that they've been telling us. Okay. So he did it because he wants to make his name known. It's his plan. Finally, at the end, once and for all, I will make them know my power and my might. And they're only going to know his power and his might when he stretches out his hand and he brings judgment like he did in Noah's day. But on a whole nother level, not with water. This time, Yah is coming with fire. He's coming with power. You understand? And might. Okay? Then they will know my name. Is Yahweh. So they don't know his name. They only know Christ. They know the New Testament. They know Buddha. They know Allah. They know all these other gods. They don't know him. Okay? That's the reason why he scattered them. He did it so he can show his power. He scattered us to the nations so he would have a reason and a purpose to come to the nations to reveal himself to us and to them. You see how beautiful this is? So what is yada? Okay. What's found in the word yada is the word da. Okay. That you hear right here. Dalet and an ayin. Okay. Dalet is a door. You can open a door. You can shut a door. And a door moves. Very simple. That's the parent root of the word yada. The DNA right there. Okay. This one here, the ayin, has to do with the eye. Sight and observation. Here's the cold part. When Yah says that I want them to know me, right? And I say that here the letter Dalet is a door. You're like, well, what does that mean to have to do with knowing, right? Check this out. Yah's giving us a clue about what they are going to have to do in order to know him. So he's not just saying they're going to know me. That's an abstract term. What is knowing? Well, you look in Hebrew, it means something, okay? So here, what does the door have to do with knowing? What does the eye have to do with knowing, right? What he's telling us is that in the word yada is the idea of an eyeball, that they're actually going to have to see something. This is the word for knowledge, da right here. It's knowledge. That's the root of knowledge. So when he talks about to know him, it means to have knowledge. You even see the word know in knowledge. And knowledge only comes through what they would say experience. And it's only what you see with your eyeballs that you have actual experience. And only through your experience is when you learn. That's what it is. It's only through visual observation that one has knowledge through his experience. So what he's talking about, the only way that people can really understand and know Yah is having an experience with him. And then from that experience, then they'll learn. So when he's talking about then they'll know my name, no, he'll say then they'll learn. They'll learn then. So the way the humanity is designed is the only way that a human being can really know something is they actually have to have an experience with it. So we have to have an experience. They have to have an experience with Yah. They have to experience the power and the might. They have to experience the fire. They have to experience they have to experience the famine. They have to experience it to learn. So, what are you and I learning? What is it? Well, you and I have got a head start. Why? Because we're the people of Yah. So what Yah is doing with us is, Yah is saying, if you look at this word again, ad right here, or da, excuse me, if you reverse that and you just make it an ayin and a dalit, just reverse the letters, that means what? What does this mean? I say it every week. You are a what? A
Witness.
what? You're a witness. You don't learn any other word. Learn this word, odd. You are a witness. So being a witness is an eyewitness that goes to the door of the tabernacle, where the 10 words were located, where Moshe was getting all the instructions about the Torah. So when Yah says that you're going to come back and you're my witnesses, that means that you have had an experience with me. And because you've had that experience with me, you're learning about me. The reason why you and I are witnesses, we're testifying to what? We're testifying to Yah's name. He said, finally, once and for all, they're going to know my name. They're going to know my name after they have an experience with me. That's when they're going to learn. So the only way people can learn is through having an experience. You are having an actual experience. You had an experience with Yah, and you're having, and you said, well, how am I experiencing him? He told us in Deuteronomy 30 that guess what? When you're in nations, you're going to start thinking about it. What? You're going to be caused to start thinking about what's happened to you. Why? Because I'm the one who did it. Then you'll know that I am the one. Then you'll know that I'm the one. I'm the one to talk to you. So you should know that Yah is who he says he is because what he said is true. He kept his word. You go against me, I'm scattering you into the nations. Then you'll know. You see? So he has to have an experience with them too. And that's when they're going to learn. Okay? You and I are learning right now. We've been learning from Yah. We're getting to know him. You understand what I'm saying to you? We don't fully know Yah yet, but we're getting to know him. You see? So we're like Noah in a sense, like we have this relationship with Yah. We're walking in front of him in a way we're causing ourselves. Ain't nobody forcing you to come on Zoom on Shabbat. Ain't nobody told you gotta be here. You're doing this because you want to. Ain't nobody told you to dial in. You did that. You put it on your finger. You're using your eyeballs to look at this screen right here. You could be looking at something totally different. That's you. You're hithalak. You said, I want to live this way. So you have that characteristic. That's a good thing. Zedek, you're in pursuit of knowing what Yah wants. So you could know. That right there is Noah. So when a land sins against the Most High, You will be one of the only people that can save yourself because you wanted to know. Because Yah saw you. He said, my eyes are watching. You took counsel from the Most High. You're learning. You're not an expert. You put forth effort. You're making improvement. That is enough. You understand? In our Haftarah, I want you to understand something. When I was doing my research, I was like, okay, what if someone asked me, what is the Haftarah? What are you going to tell them? Do you know what it is? It's like, yeah, it means completion. It means to be complete. So it's like, okay, well, that's good. Well, where did it originate from? Where did it come from? What's the origin of it? The origin of the Haftarah came when the Torah was outlawed. Okay. I think it's in 164 BCE or something like that, where the Torah was outlawed by the Grecians. They made it a crime and by the penalty of death for you to read the Torah. So what they did not do is they did not have any law that said they couldn't read about the prophets. So our people were back in the day were like, well, we don't want to get killed for reading the Torah, but what we can do is we can read the Haftarah. So when they would read the Haftarah, they would find out the things that we find in the Haftarah. That's why they're connected. Like, about Noah and how the Most High said, I'm going to make an eternal covenant with you like I made in the days of Noah. And so, when you looked at the Haftarah this week, it's talking about what he promised the land. So the connection is Yah has kept his covenant. He made a covenant with Noah, not to destroy the earth anymore. So the Most High then tells us in Isaiah that I'm not going to destroy the land anymore. I'm going to bring back her children. I'm going to restore her. So then the Most High brought it to my attention that it's just not about Noah and his sons and their wives and the animals. It's about the land itself. She got released from her curse. Yah wants her to thrive, not only us. She can't thrive and we can't thrive without each other. We need each other. We need the land in order to survive. There's no way. So the relationship between us and the land is very important, or us and the earth is very important. What we do can be brought out or taken out on the earth, like you saw when Most High cursed the land on behalf of man. The actions that Adam did caused the earth to be able to experience that because that's where he came from. See, the Most High says the whole world right now is out of balance because of what? Because the judgment, because people are not executing judgment. So all the times when people are being taken advantage of, all the oppression that is going on, how people are treating the poor, the earth is absorbing all of this. So when the Most High says, when a land has sinned against me, he's not only talking about the inhabitants, the land is the one who's absorbing the blood that's been shed. The land is the one who's not getting the Shabbats and the rest. We're forgetting. We think it's all about us. It's about the land. It's about the earth. You understand? The Most High unalives all creation. Everything that had breath in it lost their life, going down to an insect. He took them out. Why? Because of the kamas of man, because of the violence, how man was treating. So as a result and a consequence of the behavior of humanity, everybody suffers. Everything suffers. Plain and simple. But what about the fish? Did they suffer? No. Why? Because they weren't on the earth. They're underneath the earth. They're in the water. They got protected. That life, okay? Where did all the bodies go? Yah said he opened up the deep. All the bodies went back into the deep. He washed them away. That's what he did. You understand? But the earth, she suffers because of how we act. And the Most High is going to make it right, not only for us, but he's going to make it right for her too. Yah tells us that all your children, talking about the land of Yerushalayim, all your children will be taught by Yahweh. Your children will have great peace. Why is he talking about this in the Haftarah? It's simply because the Most High said that I noticed that all humanity are doing evil and they're acting foolish in their youth. That's where all the problems happen, is when they're children, when they're in their young part of their life. letting us know why the Torah is so important for us when we come down to how the Most High has instructed us to teach your children. That's why every 7 years, you're supposed to bring the children of Israel, bring their children out there to learn the Torah, to learn how to fear Yahweh and to do what he's asked him to do. Because he said, I know that foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. He says that I know that the man's intention, he's only acting this way from his youth. So because it was never dealt with, okay, those things happen. So Yah's putting protective measures in. Okay. Now, he said, in righteousness, going back to Noach, in righteousness, in Zaddik, you will be established. So this means that Yahweh is in pursuit in chasing that which is right for the land. His intent is to establish her in righteousness. And so the individuals, I don't have a slide for it, it says the only individuals that will be able to abide and to live and to dwell in her are going to be righteous, not the wicked. Wicked cannot live in a place of righteousness because they will not be able to understand the majesty of the Most High. You could take them to the land of the Most High and they would never appreciate it. They will never know what all this means. They would never have an appreciation for what the Most High has done. They would never acknowledge that he sent us out in order to correct us and so we can learn. So when we come back, we can be righteous and we can teach the nations on how to be righteous. He says, far from oppression, going back to what the land was experiencing, the earth was experiencing through the people who were never taught. Okay. He says, with nothing to fear, far from ruin, because that's what man had became. He became a ruin, and therefore he ruined the earth. He says, for it will not come near you. No oppression is ever going to come near you again. Here's your Torah. This is your study. Lech Lecha is what we're going to be looking at next week, if Yah is willing. And Isaiah chapter number 40 and chapter number 41 and Psalms 40 through 59. I usually now give you like 19 Psalms to read at a time. No more than that. You don't need no more than that. So you can really study it and you don't have to be overwhelmed. So we know that the Most High is going to teach the children. We know that the Most High is asking us to seek him while he could be found. We know that, the nations, they have, inherited nothing but lies. So whatever they're saying is not true. We see that Yah has not broken his covenant, like Sister Pam had mentioned to us, that if the rainbow's in the sky, Yah has not done away with that covenant. It's a promise that he has made. There is no new covenant. There is no new covenant with the Most High. And if there was a new covenant that was made with us or made with the world, what is the sign that he said, this is the sign? You never hear the Most High speak at all in the New Testament. Not one time does he speak. They said that they heard a voice that said, hey, this is my beloved son. But there is nowhere in the New Testament that says that thus saith YHWH, and this is the sign of this covenant. Never. Take my blood and eat my body. Hey, if you want to become a vampire, that's on you. Okay. But the fact of the matter is, the Most High never speaks in the New Testament. And you can see, based off what we saw today, the book of Revelation does not tell you that there's a sea. It says there's not going to be any sea. There's not going to be any sun. There ain't going to be no moon. There ain't going to be no temple. None of this. It's all galactical. Okay. The Most High tells us that all the seasons are always going to continue. And that is his promise to the whole entire creation. Not just man, but the earth and everything that lives in it. Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. Praise be unto our living Elohim. I want to thank those of you who were able to